Hi everyone, it's Julie at the Paper Bag Lady 1, and happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. For my Mother's Day today, my husband made arrangements with my parents to have my daughter spend the day there, and then he and I went antiquing and flea marketing. So as you can imagine, I found all sorts of treasures, so I thought that I would share. The first place that we went is a place that is about 15 minutes from my house. It's called Saturday's Market, and there's outdoor and indoor vendors on Saturday, as you can imagine. And then on Sunday, they just have the outdoor, and not that many people always go, but we thought we'd stop by today, and I did manage to find like a couple really cool treasures. So the first, actually I think it was the first place we went to, I found two things, and I didn't even unwrap it yet. Let's see if I can get it out. Maybe not. Two things of this lace. It's kind of a cream with that floral pattern on there. There's quite a bit of it. As you can see, I think one of them had 10 yards and one of them had 7 yards. So that was a bonanza. So that'll probably show up on my Etsy store, The Paper Bag Lady, at some point. And then I managed to find some more of these delightful little doily thingerhoozles to cut up. And these, they have this round circle here that I think is some kind of a plastic ring, because that's really firm under there. So I'll be cutting those apart and adding them to my collection, and I've had a couple people ask me about buying them, so you might find some of those showing up on my Etsy at some point also. Not sure about that yet, but anyway, so I found those. I also found, while I was there, and I haven't even opened this one up and looked in it, this bag of lace and rickrack, and it was actually this piece of lace here that caught my eye. It's kind of a really old vintage, like a vintage tan color. But I just thought that was so pretty. So there was two little bundles of that. I had to have that. There's also some of this eyelet scalloped trim and some white cotton crochet with some white satin ribbon in there, and then a couple little bits of rickrack, and I love rickrack, so I had to have that. And then they also found a woman who had some things just sort of sitting around, and everything was $1/4 a piece. I don't know how to sew, but I love vintage sewing as a theme to work with. So I got a couple different old things of hooks and eyes, and then two old looking, what do you call them? Oh, measuring tapes, the cloth kind. I know they make them plastic now. So I got those. So that was what I got at the first little flea market that we went to. Then the second place we went was to Adamstown, Pennsylvania, where there are, I don't even know how many, 6, 8, 10 different antique malls. But there was an outdoor antique flea market that we had never ever been to before. So we went there, and the first booth, if you will, that I stopped at, what the lady mostly had was buttons. Buttons, buttons, and more buttons, and I did not purchase any. I have a lot of buttons, and these were some pretty old buttons, and they were some pretty expensive buttons, like the kinds on the cards. And I mean, I'm talking anything from $1, $2 per button up to like $30, $40, $50 a button. It was astounding and amazing to look at, but it really wasn't in my budget. But she did also have some other things, and so I got, for one, this giant, look at that, giant roll of lace. And I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see here. Maybe I should put it on this book here. There we go. But look at that. It's I don't know if it's picking it up or all, but it's up at all, but it's kind of like a shimmery, there's a shimmer to that lace. It's white. I believe it's supposed to be white. This first part is a little bit dirty, I think, where it was on the outside edge of the spool. But I thought that was really pretty, that you could weave some sort of thin ribbon in there, or if you wanted, you could even cut it apart and make it into two different pieces of lace. This whole thing together is almost 2.5, whoops, sorry, I have a glare there, almost 2.5 inches wide. So you can look for that certainly to show up on my Etsy. It said there were 155 yards. I'm not sure what I need 155 yards of that lace for, but for the price I had to have it. And oh, I missed this blue book here showing you. This is what also I got at the first place. It's just a book called Knight Without Armor. Not that I necessarily wanted to read the book, but it was $1/4, and I really liked the cover, and it was old, and the pages could be used for something, or the cover. So anyway, forgot about that. So back to the lady with the buttons and the trim and everything, and this is the second who's-y do of trim that I got. And this, now the more that I look at it, it has two different kinds, so I'm gonna have to check that out. It's kind of a creamy color, and then I don't know how well you can see. I have, it's, you know, 7:30 in the evening, and I don't have the greatest of lights in here. But there's kind of like this pinky color in the center there. It's also stretchy. So there's that, but then I also saw that there was a part on it, whoops, that looked like this, where the pink is along the outside edges. So I'm not sure how, it's all on the same spool. I'm not sure how much of each one is on there, but it's a little messy, so I'm gonna have to take that apart and check it out, but you can look for that to show up on my Etsy store as well. So those I was very excited about. And also she had a lot of little junk jewelry, and I don't make charms or bead things really at all, but they were two for $1, and so this one right here caught my eye, and I don't know if it will focus or not, but these beads are kind of in a little cage, it looks like. Is that picking up? I don't think it is. But anyway, these little kind of pearly white beads are in that little cage, and I thought that while I probably won't use them, I know some people who might in their crafting. So I got that, and because they were two for $1, I just grabbed another one too, and it has kind of these big chunky white beads and these kind of clear faceted ones with some little bead caps in between. So I'm sure somebody somewhere will want to use that. So that was from the one lady, and then her mother had a stand there too. And from her, I got this really pretty vintage trim. And again, pardon my bad lighting, but it's kind of like an antique white color, and that's kind of almost a salmon color. And again, my camera is not picking that color up well at all. But it's kind of like a peachy pink, a little more pink than peach color, but that's really pretty. And then she also had this, which I believe was probably a collar originally. But you can see it has all these tiny little things, which I will of course cut apart and use as individual flowers, and that was like $1. There was another seller that had like this huge trunk full of linens and things like that, and I rooted and rooted through that and came away with two that I couldn't leave there, and this was the first one, which I thought was really pretty. And you could either cut it apart and just have that as the flower that you use, or you could leave the little lines along the outside edge like that and use that. So I got that one, and then the other one that I picked up from that seller is this, and I'm not sure how well you can see that again because of the terrible lighting in here, but it is actually a pink and white thread, variegated, that was used to make that. So I will be cutting that apart, and I thought that'd be really pretty in some kind of vintage album for a baby girl or something like that. So I think those were like $2 a piece. Then I found a seller who had tons and tons of postcards, and most of them were not vintage postcards per se, but he had this stack right here. You can see the size of that stack? I think the paper said there were 47 postcards there. There's Christmas, there's Valentine, there's just general greeting, but all sorts of vintage postcards. And so it was the whole pile of them for $3, which is actually even better than my postcard guy. So I had to have that. I picked up a couple milk bottle caps just because they are fun and I like them. And then some of you, this was not on a film before, but some of you may remember seeing a picture of this that I found at a thrift store for 50 cents. I was all, oops, it's the wrong side, all excited about these butterflies in this crocheted piece. And people kept telling me, don't cut it up, don't cut it up. I haven't cut it up yet. I'm still tempted. But I found the seller that had boxes and boxes and boxes and rows of linens and things like that. And would you believe, look at that, a set of 4 little individual doilies with that same butterfly on it. So I was ecstatic. I had to have them, of course. I thought, well, I can use these individually even if I don't cut this up. So I got that. And I believe that was all at that at the outdoor market. And then we went to a couple of the antique malls, and one of them, I can't remember the name of it, and we go there pretty regularly. I only found one thing today, and that was this vintage game of hearts. I have a lot of vintage card games, but I did not have this particular one with these particular cards before. The cats and the rabbits and the monkeys, and the, I guess it's a rooster or a chicken, I'm not sure. But I really, really liked those, so got that. And then the last place we went was an antique mall called the Mad Hatter. Called that because it is actually housed in an old hat factory. So, found a couple things there. More trim, as you can imagine. Here's these two big bundles of this trim. It is a white crocheted trim with kind of like a navy, not like midnight navy, but a dark blue ribbon running through the center of it. Got that one. That one will for sure show up on my Etsy store. And then the same seller had a similar one. Whoops. This side is the white crocheted again, and this is like a baby blue satin ribbon running through that. And also one with a baby pink. And again, you'll have to, yeah, it doesn't even, you can't even tell at all. You'll have to excuse the lighting. I should have possibly done this during the day, but I was so excited I wanted to get it done. The one with the blue and one with the pink, and there's a fairly decent amount of both of these too, so I will be sharing that for certain. And the last thing that I got was, there was a seller that had a couple shelves just full of paper products, books and magazines and flyers and all sorts of things. Everything was $1 for each one. So I picked up 4 things there, and the first is this New York Street Guide, Manhattan and the Bronx. And it's just lists and lists and lists of the streets. And in the back it lists museums and hotels. And I like this, probably can't, maybe you can read it, the taxi cab rates. 20 cents for the first quarter mile and 5 cents for each additional quarter of a mile. This was from, when was this? 1946. I have a lot of vintage postcards from New York City, and I have planned at some point to do an album relating to that. So I thought perhaps that might come in handy. Also found this old book. Partially, I liked the cover. I just liked the way it looked. But I also, of course, liked the music inside. My father's a musician. I came home when we picked up my daughter. He said, "Oh yeah, Hollis Dan, I know that name." So apparently he's quite big in school music programs, or was at one point. Then I found this old magazine. It's coverless. At least I'm assuming there was a cover at one point. I don't know. But it's called the Mother's Magazine. And it is from 1905 is the date on that. And this one I got mainly because of all these vintage ads and images in here. There's all kinds of good stuff. And wait till I find this one page, which I thought was too cute for words. I'm not sure what I would do with it. Well, there's a bunch of baby clothes, like for the layette. I think that's what they call it. But oh, look, there we go. Look at all those cute babies. I don't even like babies very much. But anyway, so I am sure I will be sharing pages of that with some of my vintage-minded friends as well. And the last thing, now, anybody who knows me well knows that one of my other favorite themes to work with is nursery rhymes. I probably have 35 books of nursery rhymes. I really don't need more, but I had never seen this book before. I loved the pictures, the images in this book. They're a perfect size to cut up and use in a 6x6 mini album. And it was $1. How could I leave it there? So I came home with one more book, and I guess they're technically not nursery rhymes. These are called nursery tales. But I can see on the front it's going to have some of the same thing. There's the 3 little pigs, and there's Little Red Riding Hood. So I am sure that I will find things to fit in with my my nursery rhyme themed passion. So anyway, so those are my treasures from today. I had a fantastic Mother's Day, and I hope you all did the same. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing it all as much as I enjoyed shopping for it all. And have a great rest of your day. Bye.